but I'm delighted to be here with and I want to go back to what he told you here about extortion 17, and I want to make a couple of points here. You need to understand this was if not the worst tragedy of that war, it was pretty close to it. When that helicopter went down, it was a Chinook. It was not even designed to do what they were asking it to do. And not only that, Special Operations had their own pilots that flew helicopters and had night vision equipment and had all kinds of stuff. And they put these men, 17 SEALs. You know how much it cost to train those 17? Millions of dollars to train them. And they put them on that helicopter with very courageous pilots from the National Guard in Colorado. They didn't have a lot of hours, and they were going into something that was absolutely incredible. And that was, they were going in on a hot landing zone, meaning they knew the enemy was there on that landing zone. They were there to get them. And when they came in, they had asked for authority to preempt the guns on the ground there. They knew where the enemy was, and they wanted to preempt it. And what they wound up with was a response that said, you can't shoot unless they shoot at you. Think about this. And sure as heck, the enemy got the first shots off, even though they had gunships flying along beside them. Gunships that could have taken those out. And then the worst part is, the military either withheld or outright lied to the families of these people and lied to the media about it, which I don't really care about that anyhow, so that's, but so what are you going to do? Parents of these young men wanted to know the truth. They wanted to know what had happened. And nobody would give them the truth. Nobody would tell them. And what they did tell them was a lie. Until this little former Navy JAG officer came up and said, I'll help you. I'll help you. See, he's got the values that we have here in Eastern North Carolina. And that is, you help your neighbor. You help those that need help. That's one of our ethos. It's what we stand for in this part of the country. This is not California. Right now, we're in Craven County, North Carolina. And I don't know that there's any place better to be than right here. That's right. So he steps in and says, I'll take it from here. And he started investigating himself, and talking to people that knew what they were talking about, and they were willing to give him the truth because he wasn't in part of the chain of command. So they would talk to him, they'd tell him, and he finally put it all together, and he wrote that book. Call sign Extortion 17. If you have not read that book, it is worth your time to sit down and read this book, because it will, on the one hand, it will break your heart. On the other hand, it will make you angry when you find out what they did. And they tried to stop him. They tried to stop him. And then when the movie came out, they tried to stop the movie. And what did he do? He had a mission. And he believed in what he was doing. And let me tell you something, and I've talked to some of the families there. It brought them such relief. It didn't make them happy, but it gave them relief to know how their sons died. That is Don Brown. That's the man. That's the man. You know what's going to happen? If we don't hold the Senate, and I mean hold the Senate with conservatives, I don't mean hold the Senate with what we got right now in one of those positions. And I don't mind saying Tom Tillis he's worthless as far as I'm concerned. And if we can get that spot and hold the rest of the Senate, that will be great. But if we lose it, Donald Trump is going to be under more pressure. If they take the Senate, if the Dems take the Senate, and that seat that we're talking about here, the Democrats are pushing millions and millions and millions of dollars into that race. Can you match that? I don't think so. They're pushing millions of dollars in there because they want that seat. And you know what's going to happen? All the things that Trump is doing, they're already, every time he does something that we all support and all agree with, they put it into a lawsuit. That's why, and that's the only problem with him, he's a lawyer. But stop and think about it. If they can get a seat and take the Senate, it is going to make it even more difficult for Donald Trump. Because right now he has the Senate and the House, even though they still sue him all the time. If they get the Senate, that is going to be bad for us. Or if we get somebody in there that is nothing but I hate to even say what Tillis is, but somebody that is just there because they are wearing the name of Republican, but they're in name only. We've got to take this seat, and we've got to take this seat with a true conservative that cares about this country. And somebody said it earlier, I can assure you that man is a patriot. I've been around him enough to know. Because what he was also telling you about was when we met, we were at Morning Star Ministries. That's where I'm endorsed. I mean, whatever the word is. But, and they had been trying for several years to do something with a building on their grounds and the community there around Fort Mill had done everything they could, the Democrats, to stop this from happening because they knew if they turned it into condominiums that we would bring in a lot more people that were going to be voting for conservative issues. And we didn't know what to do. I'm on the board there. We didn't know what to do. Finally somebody said, well, I know a guy that I bet you will take it. And we brought him in. And what was it, a month? And you came and briefed the board, and you really had it under control by that time, about a month. So this is a doer. This is a man that is not afraid to stand up to anything. He's a doer. He knows what he stands for. He knows what he cares about, and he is uncompromising. And I'll tell you something worse. If we lose the presidency in this next election, everything that Donald Trump has done, in the first 30 days, they'll make an attempt to reverse all of that. Now, the good news is, after Biden, I think the American people saw the real face of Marxism. Because those people are Marxists. They're just Marxists. I don't care what they don't call themselves Marxists, but they are Marxists. And I've studied Marxism. In fact, we taught it in the school at Fort Bragg when I was the commander there. And I'll just tell you, people looked at that and said, no, maybe we don't want that. And it was a landslide election because the people rejected Marxism when they finally saw it up close and personal. They understood then what it's all about. But now you got places like New York City that's about to elect a Marxist, socialist, communist, you call him what you want to, but they're about to make that guy the governor of our largest city in America. Didn't they learn anything? Didn't they learn anything at all? And you have to say, before it's all over with, you're not going to recognize that city. With all of these government-run grocery stores, all of that stuff. Think about it. We've got to have people like Don in the Senate. We've got to hold the Senate, and we've got to hold it with people that have values that we all agree with. Because at the end of the day, we're right and they're wrong.
That's right.
That's true.
That's just the way it is. And by the way, if we got any Marines in here, any Marines? Okay, all right. Have I used any big words that were? No. Okay, I just want to make sure. Now, I want you to understand, my dad spent 32 years at Cherry Point, so I grew up thinking I was going to be a Marine. And then they gave me an IQ test and said, no, I'm going to the Army. Yeah, I got so many things about the Marines, but I love the Marines. And in fact, one of my dearest friends is Oliver North, and most of you know who he is. And I was just with him not too long ago. And if I had time, I'd tell you the story of how he saved my career. And he's a Marine, and I'm Army, you know. But 36 and a half years in the Army, and I don't regret it. But this is the kind of guy, as I look back on my time in the Delta Force and the Green Berets and the Rangers, I was blessed to have those people around me. I was wounded a couple of times, but it wasn't anybody's fault. And I had people that I could count on. I had people that it didn't matter what the task was. They were going to be there. They were going to get it done. And that's Don Brown. That is you, Don. You're going to get it done. Now listen, I'll come to an end here because I know you're tired of hearing me. But the Dems are putting a lot of money into this campaign for their candidate. And by the way, there are some rhino Republicans that are putting some in for the other so-called conservatives. And that's and you'll find out that that's also part of the game up there. As Republicans will gang up and get money out of their own savings and so forth, and put it into somebody that they want to get rid of. And you know, when they got rid of the House Speaker, remember that? Well, there were a couple of the Republicans that led the charge to get rid of the House Speaker. And neither one of them was there now anymore because they came in with a lot of money and got them off, got them out of there. So I would just say to you, we need to do all we can to help him finance this because it doesn't come cheap. He needs the money, and we need to do all we can to try and support him financially. And I want to tell you all that I'll be there when he's inaugurated. I intend to be there. When you go. So, and unless you have a question or something you need to ask me, and I'll get down and let Don get up here, because he's the one you're here to listen to begin with. So, any questions that I can answer? Okay. All right. Well, God bless you all, and God bless America. And Don,